Hey, how you doing? This is Jack Rowland and welcome to my show, In Too Deep. It's a little bit early, but happy Halloween. I couldn't have asked for a more fitting guest to match the occasion. Today I am joined by the queen of true crime, Skynd. Skynd is the frontwoman of the unique concept band with the same name, Skynd, accompanied by a producer and multi-instrumentalist who goes by Father. Skynd is a mix of heavy electronic and industrial metal with menacing manipulated vocals, each track telling the stories of some of the darkest serial killers and true crime events. The music is dark and intense, each song title being the name of a different killer, cult leader, or horrific event, and accompanied by amazing and often confronting video clips, which are like mini short films aiding the storytelling experience. The whole project is incredibly unique, not only as a creative expression with meticulous attention to detail, but its ability to send its listeners down their own rabbit holes of researching true crime. Jump on YouTube and check out their clips. Alright, let's get deep with Skynd.
Is there a point to all this?
I think we're getting in too deep.
You don't apply. Bad luck.
Oh, I have one speed, I have one gear. Go, 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 go.
I'll tell you when we're getting in too deep.
Skynd, how you going?
I'm all right. I'm all right. A lot of time on my hand right now, because of like not touring right now.
Right.
Because of COVID restrictions, it takes a lot of patience, and I'm not blessed with a lot of patience. So
Right.
I get pretty stressed out because of it. But I'm doing okay.
Oh yeah, we've just had we're just coming out in Australia, our first day of freedom on the day of this recording. We've been in the longest lockdown in the world, so I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I guess you understand. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. First of all, just want to say you are awesome. Your band is awesome. I accidentally discovered you after reading and hearing you do interviews. This sounds like a pretty common story, but I watched the Vanishing at Cecil Hotel on Netflix, and then I just wanted to start Googling Eliza Lamb and the story. I was actually trying to Google the guy in it. He's like a heavy metal dude called Morbid who got digitally lynched by the online sleuths, and I accidentally came across your music. And once I saw the first video clip and song of Eliza Lamb, I didn't know what to expect, but it just it kind of blew me away. And I was like, wow, this track's really good. The video clip is amazing. And then I started looking at what else you did. And, every track is a different either, killer, cult leader, or event, true crime kind of thing. And I kind of caught on to what your project was all about, and it just sent me down this rabbit hole of before I actually even listened or watched your clips, I had to Google who the song was about. I had to get the full lowdown of the case, and it was just it's a whole new thing that I hadn't seen before, just kind of what you're doing, and it's really great. It's really awesome stuff you do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really like that, as you just said, that when people get to know my music or get to know me and Father or the project, and that they start investigating the cases, that's exactly what I wanted people to do, to, not just listen to my music and be like, hey, what the fuck, but actually, get into this rabbit hole and start investigating the cases, and maybe, I don't know, maybe learn something about yourself or about the history that has happened, or, the cases, this is what I really, really like about that project, that people start investigating those cases, and makes me really happy to hear that.
Yeah, well, mission accomplished, because I was familiar with quite a few. Very interested in serial killers, true crime. All the good things, cults. Well, not good things, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but there was some that I'd never heard of as well, and I was just like, okay, this is really good quality production that you're doing. You. It's such an incredible kind of interpretation, and also it's just not something that you you see kind of expressed in that way very often, like a kind of a musical interpretation of a crime. And it was kind of funny, like I'm sure you've heard this before. I mean this with like utmost respect. But when I first saw kind of Eliza Lamb, after just seeing the documentary, I was just like, oh, far out. Like that's kind of. I just had this, like, I was kind of taken aback as like, what a heavy subject matter to be making music about. But even that got me really thinking about, well, why are certain genres of creativity, maybe frowned upon or something to express in that way? Like people make gory horror films based on truth, based on real things.
Or based on fiction, like
Right.
the Saw movies, for example. I mean, that's fantasy, like, and what makes me laugh sometimes is when people tell me like, oh, you're disgusting for actually singing about those cases. And I'm just like, but the guy from Saw, when he came up with that story,
Right.
I'm not even coming up with it. I just sing about what actually happened because I just don't want people to, not to sound grotesque, but I just don't want people to forget about it,
Right.
that there's not just only good in this world, but also bad. But what are people saying about a guy who come up with a fictional story like Saw? It's just a bit weird,
Totally.
But yeah.
I was curious. So like when you kind of launched, was there any backlash? Because it seems, I've been, like I said, gone well down the rabbit hole of everything you've done, listened to some interviews, and it seems that, I could be wrong, but it seems like it was an instant hit. Seems like you have like an extremely loyal fan base. A lot of people, like they get it, and it was just kind of, instantly received very well. But I'm wondering, like, did you have kind of apprehension about, kind of doing what you're doing or anything?
When I went to Australia and when I met Father that day, and we went to the studio the day after, we spoke about it because before I started this project, I wanted to do this for a very, very long time. And I went I went all over the world to actually search for the perfect producer for this music. But everyone told me that this is kind of like, it's weird, So first of all, I just needed someone to produce it, and find someone who don't think that this is disgusting or has the same interest. But when we went to the studio the next day, he was like, maybe there's going to be a backlash. And I was actually, I was pretty, how you say that? I was pretty sure about it, that there's a backlash, because it's something that hasn't been done before. Like we're doing it, like that we named the case, the song after the case.
Mm-hmm.
But then we released Eliza Lamb, and I was literally waiting for this backlash, but it didn't came. And it made me so happy that people actually from the beginning got what I wanted to say, because all I just want to do, or my vision is to, and again, I don't want to sound grotesque, but I just want to spread the message that, evil lies in all of us. And I just want to touch people who have the same interests in true crime as me. And that's what I wanted from the beginning, and that there was no backlash, and people got it from the beginning, what I wanted to say, or what I wanted to people to know with this project. It was really like, I was super surprised about that.
Right.
Because it's such a delicate topic. And because I was traveling around the world searching for this producer, and everyone else told me like, you're sick, you can't do that. Even though it happened, it's not, I'm not the first one singing about serial killers or about true crime. I mean, true crime has been a topic in art for almost like all the time. I mean, the bad or evil fascinated people, 200, 300, 400 years ago already. It's not just me. I'm just doing it maybe in a more like, how can I say that? That I don't sound stupid, but I just try to stay true to facts and stay true to the informations. And I don't see, obviously I do art, but in the end, it's nothing else than watching a documentary, because I'm not romanticizing anything. Like, I'm not telling like, okay, Richard Ramirez was a great guy. I'm not saying that. I'm saying what he did is horrible. And I want to sing about it because I want to get it off my chest. And I also want to remind people that, again, that evil lies in all of us, and we're all capable of doing inhumane cruelties.
Yeah, I think that's like so much of the reason why. I mean, true crime's just really been such it's almost like a huge industry now. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's it. Like everyone, well, at least I can speak for myself. There is, and particularly with cults and things, and you just wonder, like, could this happen to me? I agree with you. I think there's that side of us in all of us. But so has kind of like, I guess, the kind of the dark arts or the these heavy subjects and obviously true crime. This has been a fascination for you for a very long time, right?
Yeah. It actually started when my imaginary friend appeared when I was 3 years old. I don't know if you
I've heard
about that story. And when he appeared, he whispered, all those horrible stories in my ears. And over the years of growing up with him, he planted this idea of writing about true crime, because he whispered all those stories. And as a child and as a teenager, it was so heavy, to hear about those stories, because I wasn't aware about those stories, obviously. So he was the first one telling me. So I was like, fuck, I need to get it off. I need to write about it. But he was the one planting it into my head. And that's how it started, me being super interested in true crime, because after a while and growing up with him, getting older, I found out that it has a psychological thing to it. It has a lot to do with humanity. That history repeats itself all the time. And that got really interesting to me, and how far a human being can go, even though you would never expect him to be a killer, for example, or, that was always interesting. What brings a human being to the edge of humanity? That started being super interesting to me, because he just overwhelmed me with all those stories. And after a while,
sorry.
No, it's fine. Sorry.
No. I was just saying. So I've heard you mention this kind of imaginary friend a few times, and I always get annoyed at interviewers because they don't really probe any further. It almost, the way you describe this is almost like you describe it like it's a real person, and kind of like whispering these stories of horrific things to you, and you kind of reconciling with that, like. So, how old did you say? Like 3 or like 5 or something like that? That's a quite a unique thing for a child that young to be pondering the darkness of humanity. And, was this imaginary friend, how long did you live with, how long did you kind of coexist with this imaginary friend? And do you have any kind of...
He's still here.
He's still here? Yeah. Do you have any like...
He's still here. Yeah, he's still here. He's always here.
Right.
And he's, I saw him more when I was a child, but he's still here. When I write songs or when I'm in the studio, he's here. He's helping me a lot. He also followed me to Sweden when I went to Sweden, to Stockholm. He followed me there too. And the journalist, he asked me, so where is your imaginary friend? And I said, yeah, he's here. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, he's my imaginary friend. Obviously you don't see him, but I can see him. And he's still here.
Is that...
He's like my brother.
Yeah, I mean, do you kind of see this as like... I'm just trying to work out whether I'm reading too deep into this or not. I really don't know. But is this like... Do you kind of use that as a symbol of the darkness within you, or is this another kind of, just the way your creative brain works and makes sense of your inner workings?
None of those. Okay. I think just my friend.
Yeah, sure. Now I think I'm
And
trying to psychoanalyze it for no particular reason.
it's I think it's really hard for anyone to actually understand it, and I get that it's super hard to understand it. But what I can tell you is that he's sitting in front of me. He's sitting right in front of me and just listening to what I'm saying. And to me, it's super normal that he's just here. And as I said, I grew up with him. In the beginning, I was super afraid of him because he has, pale skin, kind of like greenish pale skin and black hair. And he was always like same age as me, obviously, like we really grew up together. And as a child, I was so afraid of him because I had this cassette, this Fisher Price cassette player. I don't know if you know that like
Sure.
when you can play the cassette. Yeah. And he always slowed it down. So when he appeared, the cassette player, he was like slowing it down.
Right.
And I got so scared in the beginning, but after a while, I got to know like, oh, he's here now. So I knew, now he's coming. But in the beginning, it was super creepy. And now it's like, he's here. Okay, get it.
I love that. What was so you met Father, the other half of your band, at an Australian Buschdorf. Can I ask which one it was?
I don't even remember. It was a they called it a bush party.
Yeah, Buschdorf we call them. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I went there all by myself. I was just invited by someone. I didn't even know that person. And I went there because I had this feeling in my, like this gut feeling that I have to go there. I really have to go there. Someone really draw me to this party. So we went there. And then Father, there was this guy, I didn't know it was Father, but there was this guy sitting on a stone, rocking back and forth. And that was super creepy to me. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? But something draw me to it. I felt something like a connection. So I went there and I sat next to him and we started talking. And I just felt like there's something weird about him. And we talked and I felt my soul was mirrored. Can you say that? Like I feel my inner shadows reflected back to me with this connection that I felt like existed way before we met, actually. And we talked and I told him about this idea I had about, like, I want to sing about serial killers and true crime. And he was like, oh my God, I love it. And he was the first person ever in this whole wild world who told me like, oh, I like that.
That's awesome.
That's how it came to be. And the next day we went to the studio and we started working and it was a match made in heaven. Yeah. It worked out so well, like with no one else ever, like it never worked out that well. And
I was interested in that kind of the production because our Father doesn't talk too much, but the one thing, I mean that's the thing that I find interesting hearing your music straight off the bat. It just seems so polished, like such high artistic merit from the production is just amazing. Everything from the videos, obviously the lyrics, the whole theme. But the videos by Tally Ho are just exceptional. But like one thing about the whole kind of production that I also just love about your music is how every track is they're all different and there's a different tempo depending on the subject matter. And, that's such unique kind of, I don't know, artistic intelligence in that. Like, for instance, you've got the Jim Jones one with the, come to God, come to the temple, come, like this chanting, this kind of creepy chanting that suggests like a cult. You've got the Columbine one with the rat-ta-ta-ta chorus and every single track is catchy and just awesome in its own right. But I mean, making the kind of production suit the crime in a sense is awesome. It's really, really
Yeah.
cool. Like,
Thank you.
like you said, a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Also, like, Catherine Knight is almost like a love song, like
Mhm.
a really morbid love song, which is yeah, everyone's so different. Is that how much of the kind of creative direction is it all one big collaboration, or do you just kind of leave the beat production to father? Do you have input? Where does how does it all come together
Um,
so perfectly?
so we all work together, like the visual, like the video crew, and me and Father. We all work together. Like we're all one big team, and we feed off each other's ideas. For example, when it comes to videos,
Mm.
because I'm a songwriter, I'm a singer, I like to entertain, but I'm not a video person. Like for me, it's really hard to visualize when they come up with an idea, for example. So what I do is while I'm writing the song with Father, I do a lot of like mood boards because I want to be the one creating the bottom idea to the video. Because all those ideas, they come from me and Father. When we're in the studio, it's us writing the song. So we want to be the one come up with the, can you say the bottom idea, like the ground, like the base
Hmm.
idea for the video. And then it's a process. And then we, as I said before, we feed off each other's ideas. And then obviously the whole styling and makeup comes from me as well. So it's like, it's one big teamwork, if you could call it like that.
Yeah.
Because in the end, in the beginning, it was really hard to give up this kind of control, because when I was all by myself, or just with Father, it was just us two. But then we thought about making videos as well, so we needed someone else in the project. For me, in the beginning, it was really hard to give out like this control I had in the beginning, because I was controlling everything, and I had to learn that there are other people out there with like great ideas too.
Right.
And when I learned that, it started to be like really, it was really smooth to work all together. And I only want to work with people who actually get my idea and who really want to be in this team or in this project,
Right. Yeah.
because the topics are too delicate. And for me, it's super important that with the video crew, that they stay true to the facts, true to what really, really happened, and not, fantasize something into the concept or romanticize anything. And that needs a lot of trust as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it took some time to actually build up this team. But now it's just one big teamwork. And I really, really adore that. It's a great way of working together.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I used to stay up late because we'd have like a few like video hits, kind of like we had one program called Rage, which just showed video clips, and there's no YouTube or anything, so I would often sleep on the couch and stay up till like 3 a.m. just so I could watch these crazy video clips like The Prodigy and Tool and things like that. Like I love video clips, and like your video clips are so, every single one of them is just awesome. Like the Columbine one, like how do you, I mean, it's so heavy, right? Like it's such a like how does that kind of, how do you approach subjects like a school shooting, illustrating a school shooting, with this like menacing music, like, the menacing chorus, like the bit where it slows down to that kind of half tempo-y bit is just, and also like when you're walking down the stairs in that clip, like terrifying. Like it does something to me that just like, it's so creepy, but awesome, like in a good way. Like how do you kind of go about, actually, I suppose even more specifically, it seems more like certain subjects like serial killers, everyone's cool with, everyone's fine with that, but maybe something like Eliza Lamb or a school shooting is far more triggering for people. Do you find that at all, or?
I I actually thought that, when I wrote Columbine a long time ago, because school shootings were always on top of my list, because that's something that happens all the time. It repeats itself all the time. I don't understand why nothing has changed since 1999. I really don't get that. So because it was on top of my list, it was also a really delicate one because, again, it's happening all the time. Kids are involved. And Father and I, we weren't really sure if we want to release that song.
Right.
And it also depended on the video. So we were sitting down with Manolo Zagote and Pascal Walder, and we were sitting down with them and we were like, okay, we want to do Columbine. And both of the directors were like, oh, no, you can't do that. And we were like, no, but we really want to, because it's just something I really, really want to sing about. But they really helped me to create the visual around this video, because I was like, I really don't want to focus on the shooters, because they already had enough of attention already. I mean, they're out there. They're like fan clubs. And I don't know, for Eric and Dylan, which I feel like is kind of weird to have a fan club for shooters, but whatever. I just didn't want to give them the platform again. So I was really happy when they came up with the idea of making it black and white, because it takes off a little of like the edge a little. Also, it reminds me of the surveillance camera. The video, it's just black and white when they're in the cafeteria and they're walking around with the guns. I don't know if you remember that video. And it was also black and white.
Yeah.
And it's also black and white. So I was like, no, that's a cool idea to actually make it black and white, not put it in color, and just show the victim side as like a normal school day. And then bam, it happened, because it's not just Columbine. There are so many shootings or school shootings that happened over the past 20 years or 10 years, which is super sad. And I don't want to just particularly just concentrate on this case. Obviously, it's about Columbine, but in the end, it's not just Columbine, it's about all shootings. So going back to your question, when I released that song, I was 150% sure that people are going to hate me for it. But I didn't care, because that was something that was really important to me, to get it out there, because I feel like in this case, there are so many, for example, like mental health. It's a topic that we need to talk about. Also, Columbine, mental health was involved, and listening to kids or not listening to kids is a problem. When you investigate that story, you will find out that there were certain red flags about Eric and Dylan, but no one cared. And no one was listening to them. And maybe if someone would have listened, they could have prevented this crime to happen and people and children to die. And that makes me super sad. But I really wanted that. And I really didn't care what other people think, because I was like, this is something I'm doing for myself, because it's on top of my list. And maybe you feel it now with my emotion. It really gets to me, because it makes me angry and emotional at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally understand why. And I think, this is a weird comparison, but there was a South Park episode where they kind of did, there was a school shooting while they're having class, and they all just carry on like it's normal and just like trying to hear over the bangs, because they're trying to still do their class. And the whole point of that episode, like that was like a real take back, but the whole point is just how normalized this has become, and
how normalized it is to have a gun carried to school. I mean, I saw an interview of a student, I think it was the University of Texas, and there was a shooting in 1961. That was actually the first ever school shooting, where this guy went up to the university tower and he was shooting down. I don't know if you remember that case.
I don't know.
And after 50 years, they allowed guns at the university again, at this university, but you're not allowed to carry those guns openly. You have to actually hide them. And when I heard that, and when I saw this interview of the student, he said, I just want to protect myself, because what if the teacher will take out his gun and will shoot at me? And I was like, what? This is what you're thinking about? Like, you're afraid that maybe the teacher could actually kill you with a fucking gun?
Yeah, it's very hard to relate to from the
What
outside,
you
isn't
said,
it?
it got so like normal. Kids just die in American schools. That's just, that's just normal. And that's so sad.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
With your research process of true crime, like, I go back to like Eliza Lamb. You released that well before that Netflix documentary came, which to me, I mean, I remember seeing that video that came out, really haunting, really freaky. The whole story of Eliza Lamb, for instance, was extremely mysterious, extremely captivating. What's your how deep is your research? Are you like in that documentary, as well as like Don't Fuck with Cats with Luca Magnotta? It really goes into this kind of this culture of internet sleuths, of people that actually really band together and actually just try and take it on themselves to crack these cases. Are you one of those people?
When I write songs, I'm not. Because when I write songs, I want to have the facts straight up, not me making it up. It's one of my hobbies to actually investigate crimes that, for example, Gabby Petito, I don't know if you heard about her.
No.
The girl who died, her boyfriend, they expect him to actually kill her, but now they found his dead body as well. So this is still an open case. No one knows what actually happened. So this gets me really like into this investigation mood, I want to know where it happened, where they went, what their family looks like, then I get into this rabbit hole of just like focusing on that case. And, I don't want to call it suffer, but yeah, I do suffer from ADHD. So I have this hyper focus. So when I get into a case and I'm super interested in, I can investigate the whole day. But when I write songs, I can't do that, because when I write songs, and that was rule number one when I started this project, or when I had this idea, I was like, no, I want to stay true to facts. I want to have all the informations that, even though if it's an unsolved case, I'm not going to be like, okay, Eliza Lamb was killed by this and this guy. I came up with a mystery with how you call it, a paranormal theory, which we all know didn't happen that way. We all know that. Yep. But it was just a really interesting case to sing about, because it's unsolved, and maybe when you sing about it, maybe there will be people out there, maybe, solving this case finally, because it's super hard for her parents as well to know. Yeah. They don't know what actually happened to her. Yep. But I'm trying to stay with cases when I write the songs who are already investigated, and where I can just, get all the informations and not searching it myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. What are some cases that have really consumed you, or like really got under your skin? Like for me, Richard Ramirez creeped me the fuck out. Like I watched the Night Stalker documentary because I didn't know much about him before that, and I literally locked all the doors and windows, knowing that that's ridiculous, but I just had to do that after finishing that. It was so creepy. Another one, as I mentioned, was like Luca Magnotta, and I have like a terrible, I saw that his murder video before Don't Fuck with Cats ever came out. I don't know how I came across it. Again, just like rabbit holes on Reddit or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, what's this? I'm like, whoa, I can see the video. And I've just obviously got some morbid curiosity. But that guy like creeped me the fuck out.
Yeah, really creepy.
Yeah,
Really creepy.
have
Yeah.
there been any cases that have really consumed you or really, really?
I mean,
dedicated a lot of
obviously
time?
Columbine was one of them, but also Jim Jones.
Yeah,
Because I'm fascinated, by religion and how easily people are manipulated when it comes to religion. And there's a 40 minutes audio tape of Jim Jones preaching his followers into suicide.
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah.
And you hear the people, you hear babies crying, and for a few hours after, when I was listening to that, I was so depressed because this was real. You just listen to something that was obviously every case I sing about is real, but to listen to it for 40 minutes straight, to hear those babies, to hear those people begging for like, please don't.
Yeah.
That really got to me. So that that one was really hard. But also, and again, Columbine was one of them as well. I mean, again, it was on top of my list because I feel like I have an emotional reaction to Columbine, and I feel a lot of people do still have, even though it's 20 years ago, but it's still super painful because, just when you watch all the facts about school shootings, there have been I feel 1,300 school shootings since 1970 with increasing number. The signs are there, and they are overlooked and overlooked and overlooked and overlooked. And that's also a case that makes me so what the fuck is going on? Nothing has changed since that. Yeah, since 1970.
Yeah.
So
shocking, really harrowing, really. How many?
And it's just, it's also for me, for all those survivors, also with Jim Jones or for Columbine, those people who survived, they will never get to live like a normal life. And that's super sad that one incident can just change your life forever.
Yeah. What's your, I guess your research scrapbook like? Like how many cases do you kind of delve into at one time? How do you select what you're actually going to? Yeah, I imagine. Do you have a lot of different ideas constantly kind of on the back burner? Like, is it hard to kind of decide what you're actually going to focus all your attention on?
Yeah, it makes it even harder that I have ADHD. So sometimes it's super hard for me to, I start new investigations all the time. And then I go to the studio and Father is like, so what about this case? And I'm like, oh yeah, I started this one. And the next case, oh yeah, I started this one. And he was like, we maybe should finish some songs before we start new ones. So I have so many cases in my head. And then when Father asked me about one case, I have to take out my notebook and be like, oh, fuck yeah, I read about that case. So I have this notebook where I write all my cases in to not forget, all the informations. But I just have too many cases on my hand right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm just, I cannot just stay with one crime. I have to
One when I was going through my serial killer kind of obsessive phase, one thing that I was just absolutely glued to was watching interviews with these people, mainly Charles Manson. I was just mesmerized by this, you can just see the insanity and the thoughts kind of popping in and out of his head while he's talking, and really hypnotizingly chaotic and freaky. But I actually ended up interviewing a cannibal for this podcast and tried to create one of my own. And it's I tell you, it was a really surreal experience talking to someone who has murdered and eaten human flesh. So a really a really strange thing, and just kind of trying to get to the bottom of where's the humanity? Is there humanity?
Yeah.
And with that's kind of like that kind of question, which I'm sure is like a big interest of yours as well. It's like, why were there also so many serial killers around like the 70s to the 90s in America? And yeah, there's some interesting theories out there. Like I heard someone say, lead in the pipes, apparently. But I think a lot of it kind of comes down to a lot of these people were born at a time where their parents had come back from war. So a lot of these people had like parents with post-traumatic stress. And then if you get a sociopath in the mix, you're going to get some...
I mean, that happened with Richard Ramirez as well.
Right.
His cousin came back from war and showed him all those pictures of those women being tortured. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's something that this is doing something with you.
Yeah.
Or even I think I remember that, was it Ed Kemper? His father was in war too, and then left the family. And then his mother had the rage to, I think, but I'm not sure about this fact. But I feel like that war at this time, that was a big influence. Yeah, I feel like that's true. But also, the whole police work has changed over the years too. Like I feel like today, it's harder to actually be a serial killer because of all the evidence you can actually get, no?
Sure, yeah. In Ramirez's documentary, the Night Stalker, like they've got semen samples and fingerprints in every scene, but they can't deal with that. They didn't have the technology to like log that or anything. You're like so frustrating to watch.
Yeah. And I feel like maybe because of that, it changed as well, They have to change the game. If you want to be a serial killer now, you have to just change your game and not, act like the ones from 1980. No, but I don't think that people got like, I say good now and not as bad as in the 80s. I feel like it's still happening, but in a different way.
Sure.
I mean, when you watch it, like, Michelle Carter, for example, she's not a serial killer. I'm not saying that. But this is a really modern case. Couldn't have happened in the 80s because smartphones weren't invented back then. But that's a really modern case. So also true crime cases changed over the year because of the internet and how connected we are and smartphones. And, I feel like true crime has changed as well with modern technology.
Yeah, definitely. Michelle Carter's an interesting one. So, I mean, she's the young girl who talked her boyfriend at the time into suicide via text messages. The song that you did about her, I was actually curious, are the lyrics, are they based on her text or are they original lyrics?
No, the lyrics are actually facts or like the written record of everything that they wrote each other.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And this really helped me in research in the research phase because I was able to, use their actual text message or their words because they were available to me. And the quote, for example, she said, sometimes things happen and we never have the answer why. This really stuck with me because I feel like I still don't really understand this case to this day. I really, there could have been so many possible ways to get, Conrad out of this situation. But I feel like it's really important to sing about that kind of cases as well. Even though it doesn't seem so brutal to some people, but to me it's pretty brutal to talk someone you actually like into suicide and not. I really don't get why she has not, informed his mother about how Conrad really felt. I really don't get that. Why haven't you just like texted his parents, his grandma, I don't know who, and tell them what's going on?
I mean, do you think part of that, it's just part of this, like, clout chasing, narcissistic. It's a product of this narcissistic kind of priorities that social media and things have really kind of pushed on people. You're nothing unless you can get your 15 minutes of fame kind of thing, And I think maybe that's just that gone to its edge, absolute edge of like how dark can that go? Oh, she's free. She's free now, right?
She is, and that's super sad. She got out after 11 months because of good behavior. Well, if she would be, and maybe it sounds weird to say that, but I need to say it. If she would be a girl of color, she wouldn't have got out 11 months after. But because she's a blonde, skinny girl,
the life ahead of her,
And that's so sad because I can tell you, a girl of color would have gone to prison for a longer time. That's just what I feel like. But I don't feel it's fair to Conrad's parents as well, because what she did, I'm not saying that she should rot in prison, but I feel like she should go to like a mental health institute and stay there forever, because what you did is sick. This is sick.
Yeah.
And then like, I don't know, and then change your name and your whole, identity to live your best life now doesn't seem fair to me. Yeah.
Totally, couldn't agree more. Hey, Skynd, I know you're strapped for time, so I'll wrap it up. But
we can talk for more than 10 minutes if you want.
Awesome. I noticed recently you posted on your Instagram stories, which I highly encourage you to do more of, because it just gives me more rabbit holes to go down. These kind of like this case of this woman called Julia Tofano, which is like a serial poisoner from the 1600s. If you could do that more often when there's cases that you just know are not going to make the final cut of songs, put them out. Because why did this woman? Sorry.
I feel like I have to get better in Instagramming actually and making stories, but I feel like it's to me, it's also interesting to get to know new cases or cases, I haven't heard yet about. And if people are sharing those, I'm like, no, actually, that's actually kind of cool. But that's why I'm doing the case files as well. Haven't done one in a long time, but I did them for quite a time. The case files I did for
that?
Also cases on Instagram. And also when you're part of the mailing list, the Skynd mailing list, you get an email with all those information about the case. And sometimes those are cases and they haven't been, or I haven't really had an idea yet to make a song out of it. Or those were cases I was already singing about it. Or there are cases I don't want to sing about, but they're still interesting.
Right.
So I'm trying to do that more often, but
love it. Highly encourage you to. What was it? So what? Can you give us like a brief rundown of this Julia Tofano? And also, like, is there an imbalance in male serial killers to female serial killers?
Yeah,
Sorry,
like
two questions there. Sorry.
No, fine. No, but it's to me, it's like women are more poisonous. Like they're more like the sneaky way of killing someone.
You'll get inside your head. Yeah.
Exactly. And men handle because of rage, because of emotion. So yeah, there's a difference between female and male, a big one. Because I mean, what Catherine Knight did, for example, skinning her partner and then cooking into stew, is just really unlike to female killers. Yeah. Really, really unlike. But then again, it can happen. So, yeah.
She was a pig farmer, wasn't she? Like she was a.
She was. She worked at a slaughterhouse.
That's right.
She knew how to slaughter an animal and to skin an animal. So she knew how to do it. And she also slept next to knives. You know, she had like some knives she slept next to. How weird.
Can you imagine being a cop responding to a domestic violence case and seeing a full human flesh hanging in the corner of the room? Oh my God.
It would be, I think my morbid interest would be like, I want to see it.
Yeah, totally. Me too.
I think after I saw it, I would be like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Why? But I'm not really like, I can take a lot. Like I've seen some pictures where you're just like, what the fuck? Or even the video of Luca Magnotta with the cats. I mean,
yeah,
weird.
Heavy.
I wish I haven't seen it, but I did. But I feel like I would be really interested to see it. I think my interest would be higher than me being like, no, don't do it. Come on, no, Skynd. Just stop doing it.
Do you ever listen to podcasts? And more specifically, have you ever heard of the podcast, The Last Podcast on the Left? It's a true crime podcast that's done by 3 comedians. So in terms of like what's off limits, it's literally like the most horrific cases, and they do like 5-part episodes, but making the most inappropriate jokes throughout. So it's really digestible, I guess. Bad pun. I guess. Cool. Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of where I get my.
Can you tell me that again? What's the name again? Because I want to listen to it.
It's called The Last Podcast on the Left. It's one of my favorites. They're they've got very heavy American accents, so just like stick with it for a few goes because they're well worth it. They're really funny and well researched. But yeah, I mean that's where I get all my true crime facts.
Yeah. I will listen to it. That's really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, no, not at all. Chapter 3. I'm assuming that all production's just been stopped until further notice because of COVID, or not.
There will be something new coming out really, really soon.
Great.
Like really soon. Yeah, that's what I can tell you.
Yeah.
So
that's fine.
Chapter 3 will be done then because it's the last song from chapter 3, and then there will be something new coming.
Awesome. I mean, I almost feel
but I'm
like
still like working on it. Like obviously, I had a lot of time, so a lot of people ask me when I post pictures or something. They're like, "Oh, we're still waiting for chapter 3," and I'm like, dude, chill out. I'm working on it. Yeah. It's just, it makes it super hard with the whole COVID restrictions to actually shoot videos, even though if you have a lot of like actors on set, it just, the time is just really not on our side right now. So, but I'm working on it, and I have something in the pipeline, and I had time to prepare myself also for next year's European tour we're doing in February. So,
right.
There are some things coming, yeah.
Oh, I can't wait till you can come to Australia. How are your live performances? Is that kind of like you've just nailed every aspect of like the music, the makeup, the costume design, the video clips? Is the whole performing, bringing this to a live audience a new challenge for you? Or you've probably been doing it for quite a while now.
Like it, I mean. When we started playing live, we just got literally thrown into the live pool. Like, okay, there you go swim now. So in the beginning, it was a bit hard for me because I always wanted to play live, but I was like, how am I gonna adapt that to a live show? So we started with the bottom lights, and then we tried to create a cage, around me. But when I'm standing in the cage, to me, it's not really clear if you guys, the listeners, the crowd is actually in a cage, or am I in a cage? So that was always really, I really like to work with the cage, with the lights. And for the European tour, we just tried to make it a little bigger, but also adapt the show to the venue, that it actually works with the venue. And yeah, it's going to be something new.
Great.
But yeah, I cannot say anything more about that.
That's fine. Well, honestly, I like I said at the start, I highly just I don't know if many of my listeners are aware, but I just get on YouTube, watch the video clips along with the songs, appreciate it how it's meant to be appreciated, and research every case that you're unaware of, because it really enriches the experience. It
Sure.
really does. I'd love to play Columbine, if that's okay with you, Skynd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Love what you do, and really excited to see what's next. And again, it's like, I know you have to actually make it, but eagerly awaiting.
Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you for having me, and it was a really great talk.
My pleasure. Thanks for listening, everyone. And thanks again, Skynd. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.